Okay, so this has been a really intense week. I'll say that right out of the gate. I think it's the most modules we've had in a week. Actually, well, maybe every module has been 8 separate videos so far, maybe 7, 8, 8. But this has been a heavy, heavy week. The primary takeaway here is you cannot rely on organic strategies to grow your podcast when you first start because you are irrelevant. No one knows you. There are way too many podcasts out there. Discovery is a huge problem that has not yet been solved. No one knows you exist. And so if you want to grow your podcast, you've got to invest some money into paid marketing in the ways that you were shown inside of podcast player apps. We talked about Overcast, Podcast Addict, Player FM, and the Fountain app. And we also talked about Audio Go for audio ads. You've got to use those ways. Find the one that works best for you. I would start with Fountain. And if that works well, I would move to Overcast. Really, between Fountain and Overcast, you'll get a lot of bang for your buck. Those are my 2 preferred. Now, that's not enough because you're spending your own money here. You're carving out maybe $300, $400, $500 a month to spend on growing a show that doesn't make any money for you unless you have a business wrapped around it and you're using it for lead generation, in which case you're probably fine. You're happy to spend that money to generate leads. But creators who come from an artistic space or a passion place, they're not gonna be okay spending that money. That's gonna be hard for them to do. If that's you, you've probably got to take up driving for Uber one weekend a month to generate that extra money to spend on ads. All right, find that income somewhere. You need it. Okay, you've got to invest in the upfront into growing your show with paid ads before you're going to have the income to replace that and not have to pay for it anymore. Okay, and have the podcast itself generate the income necessary to spend on ads and growing the show. That's not enough either, right? We need to actually justify that ad spend by making the podcast worth that money, so that, like I said, eventually it's not your money you're spending, it's the show's money you're spending. You have to think of your show as a business entity, think of you as maybe an employee of the business entity. You wouldn't go, spend money for work stuff without asking for your boss to reimburse you. This is the same kind of situation here. The way that we do that is we turn on programmatic ads within Sounder. We've got 2 pre-rolls and 2 post-rolls. We don't have to do anything. We just turn them on, and they begin generating a little bit of money as we're spending marketing dollars to bring people into the podcast. That's the cycle we're setting up. In addition to that, we're setting up a Supercast account so we can say from episode 1, hey, if you hated those ads, you can support this podcast and get an ad-free version of the show and an extra couple episodes a month by going to mypodcast.supercast.com and signing up for $5, $6, $7, $10 a month, whatever you feel comfortable with. I say 6. Some people like 7, some people like 3. And you give those people an immediate way to escape the ads if they want, and you set the tone that ads are part of this podcast. They're going to be there. Get used to it or take a hike. Once you've done that, all you have to continue to do is put money into your marketing until the number of people who are coming into the show as listeners generate enough revenue for you to stop spending your own personal money and start spending the money that comes in through revenue generation, either through Supercast or through programmatic ads, to spend on the marketing budget. You keep doing that until you've got $1,000 a month to spend on the marketing budget, and then everything else you make after that is for you. You, the business entity of the podcast, can pay you, the employee. Now, there's some LLC stuff and business stuff you should probably do once you get to that point, but when you're just starting out, just keep track of the money. Don't worry about taxes and stuff. You're still going to list it as private income, and you won't make that much at first to even really need to worry about taxes, because I think you'll need to generate at least $3,000 or something from it before you have to pay any taxes on it. So don't worry about business structure or anything like that right off the bat. Just set up a Stripe account, turn on programmatic ads in Sounder, set up a Supercast, and set that system up so that you can start making money. And eventually, within a few months, probably 3 to 6 months, you'll be at a point where the money you're spending on marketing is the money that the podcast is generating itself. Okay, so that's the system I want you to walk away with here. Next week, we are going to launch our first episode, and we're going to talk about actually launching our podcast in a serious capacity. We're going to launch our podcast. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to record our first formal real episode this upcoming week, our final week, and we're going to launch. Now, during that week, we may record more than one, and we'll get a little bit of a build up, a bulk of episodes so that we're ahead of the game. And remember, you don't have to launch this upcoming week, okay? You've got 3 months of additional support in the community, so you can take another month to launch this podcast. But this is an accelerator. We move fast. So we covered a lot of ground this week. We'll cover the last bit of ground next week. And then in the 3 months that follow, you'll have access to me inside of the Discord community so that you can ask questions, get additional help, keep things focused, and keep things moving forward. So that's it for this week. You've been awesome sports. I know this has been a grind, and I will see you next week. Congratulations on making it through week 3. Take care.